So hi, good afternoon. So class duration is not normal today, and in fact I got it extended. So we'll leave it little not little early, as in I don't know. I do have a little bit of medical emergency in the family, so जब भी मुझे लगेगा मैं चला जाऊंगा, ठीक है? I'll just I'm on phone. So last day also I got one class cancelled and morning में भी एक class cancel हुई है. तुम्हारी क्लास थी मॉर्निंग में? नहीं थी, यही थी एक आज. चलो बट वी विल कॉम्पेंसेट दिस क्लास सम अदर डे बाय एक्सटेंडिंग द आवर्स, ठीक है? सो नेक्स्ट वीक जब भी जो भी अभी तो स्केड्यूल आया नहीं है, तो नेक्स्ट वीक में हम इसको एक कवर अप कर लेंगे, ठीक है? सो लेट्स गो टू. सो व्हाट वाज द लास्ट टॉपिक दैट वी हैव सीन? हाँ, stupa in the Maurya age. So it means that we haven't seen sculpture. We have not gone into sculpture, and then have we gone into the pottery also? Chalo. So let's start with the uh, Maurya period pottery, and then after we'll go into the stupa. Or Mauryan pottery. Basically, you can write Mauryan pottery, that would be better. Age mat likho. And the Mauryan pottery has a specific name, Nadan black polished ware. So Nadan black polished ware. So why it was called as Nadan black polished ware? Obviously north, sorry, that not north, black in color, okay, and found in the northern India. So Nadan black polished ware. So it was considered to be the climax of the pottery making. And why it was a climax of pottery making? Because it was the pottery was very even in texture, and then it was highly polished. Then so how it was achieved? That Mauryan pottery was much better than all the other potteries which have existed earlier, including the Indus Valley pottery also. So, and why we are saying climax of the pottery making? Because of these two things. So how this particular thing was achieved, that we need to know. So as we all know that how pottery is created, a lump of clay is kept on the wheel, and then we turn the wheel. Then so, and you put your hand feast into the wheel, and then you turn the wheel. So that's how you shape. With your feast only you shape the that particular pottery. So those earlier times, okay. So in the earlier times, the soil has clay. That the soil or clay that they are using, it had coarse grains. Coarse grains, you understand? Conquered. Then obviously there are some soil particles which will not be soluble in the water. Then so coarse grain remained in the clay, and when coarse grain is there in the clay, so obviously you cannot run the wheel on a very faster pace. Q. So if you are putting your feast into the lump of the clay on the wheel, and if you run the wheel on a faster pace, so that concord which is there, it will cut your hand. Okay? If you're running it fast, then so that's why it was created on a very moderate pace. But now what change they brought? Very simple change. They filtered the clay. Okay? So they started the process of filtering the clay. And when they are filtering the clay, so they have removed all the coarse grain. Okay? So all the coarse grain. So coarse grain is removed or concord is removed, and that's how that pottery can be created on a faster wheel. Apart from it, how come the black color was achieved? So इसका भी process होता था. And one must be thinking कि otherwise अगर जो कोई भी मिट्टी ले लो, any such soil, so if it is baked on fire, it turns black. Sorry, it turns red. Then, but then how they achieved black color? So what was done? That there used to be some sort of leaves. ठीक है? Those leaves were smoked. उसके ऊपर soil रख के smoke किया जाता था. ठीक है? So leaves were smoked into the soil, and that's how the black texture used to develop in the clay itself. वो red नहीं होता था. So these all things were done at this point of time. and the pottery was very even, very smooth. Even का मतलब समझ ही रहे हो कि ऊपर से नीचे तक, suppose that if we have to talk about the width, so this is even texture, ठीक है, that पूरी की पूरी प्लास्टिक नीचे जिस width में है ऊपर उसी width में है, ठीक है. So even texture pottery was created. So mention, you write, the characteristic pottery of Maurya age, the characteristic pottery of Maurya age was known as Nadan black polished ware. Nadan black polished ware. Then further you write after it, Nadan black polished ware. Mention. It was climax of pottery making. It was climax of pottery making. Climax of pottery making. And highly even polished pottery. Highly even polished pottery was created at this time. Was created at this time. Full stop. They filtered the soil particles. They filtered the soil particles and removed coarse grains. Removed coarse grains from the clay. Coarse grain from the clay. Then, moreover, soil was smoked. Moreover, soil was smoked to give black texture. To give black texture. Then, black texture. So that's there. Then, household utensils and general ware pottery, household utensils and general ware pottery were created in this style. Were created in this style. So this is about the pottery. अभी if the time will permit, यहाँ पे इशू क्या होता है कि ये कनेक्ट नहीं होता है इमेज वाला, ठीक है. So if it gets connected, I have brought images today, so we'll see the images also, ठीक है. So let's go into the next one. आगे चलो, just give me 1 minute. अच्छा, if this is different board. So next you write Mauryan sculpture. Mauryan sculpture. So now understand that as far as the sculpture of the Maurya period is concerned, that whose sculpture they created. Obviously we have talked about the Buddhism, we have talked about Jainism, ठीक है, all the 3 branches of the Shramana, ठीक है. But then किसके images बन रहे थे इस time पे, ठीक है, basically the sculptures. So understand that it is all related to the developments in the Buddhism. Generally, the general perception is that they might have been creating the images of the Buddha, but actually that tradition hasn't started in the Maurya period. The reason is that by this point of time, that there was no such deification of the Buddha, meaning that हिंदी में मैंने वो बात बताई थी, देवत्व रोपड़. So by this point of time, the idol worship tradition hasn't started in Buddhism. So that's why we don't see idols of the Buddha by this time, or sculpture wahi. So whose sculptures were created? So in this period, the sculptures of folk god and goddess. Okay? So folk god and goddess who are called as Yaksha and Yakshini. So their sculptures were created. In fact, one common thing between Hinduism, Jainism and Buddhism was that all of them represented different images of the Yaksh and Yakshini. Okay? So it is a common connecting link between the three religions. So folk god and goddess. Now, what is this folk god and goddess whom we are calling Yaksh and Yakshini? In today's time, they might be known with many other names. Okay, Yaksh and Yakshini. But then, in those time, the common name which was given Yaksha. So where do we get the mention of Yaksha in Hinduism? Mahabharat. Okay. So in Mahabharat, you remember an episode that in that episode, Yudhishthir's brothers. Okay. So basically, it is the Draupadi who is asking for the water. The brothers, one by one, they have gone to fetch the water from a lake. They are asked a question by somebody, and that guy was a Yaksha. So Yaksha Prashna, and they are not replying to it. They all are dead. And finally, Yudhishthir replies to the Yaksha. Okay? So that instance from the Mahabharata indicates that there is some sort of Yaksha. Then apart from it, Yakshini is also the counterpart of the Yaksha. So now, I'm writing a word that Yaksha and Yakshini, as far as the Indian mythology is concerned, in the Indian mythology, they are demigods. Okay? So they are demigods. Do you understand what is the meaning of the demigod? Who is demigod? बताओ. आधा. अच्छा, तो सेमी गॉड क्या होता है? If demi is आधा, तो what is semi? Yep. So combination of the not as he said, combination of the demon and god. But then basically we will say a god who can become a devil also. Okay? So that's the meaning of the demigod. That the god who can become devil also. And in certain situation he would be non-forgiving. Okay? So basically not just Kali. Okay? Just wait for it. So non-forgiving. So how come they will be non-forgiving? It all happens. So first you need to understand the concept of Yaksha. Yaksha is associated with the wilderness of the nature. Okay? Preservation of the nature, wilderness of the nature. If anything, any harm is provided, it's given to the nature and then the original inhabitants of a particular natural setup. So Yaksha can become a demon. Okay? Similarly, Yakshini is considered as goddess of fertility. Then she is goddess of fertility, she is goddess of wealth, and she is goddess of the increment in the progeny. And moreover, her association is also with the nature. But then, when the nature is disturbed, okay, a particular setup is disturbed, a particular natives are disturbed, so then Yakshini can also become a demon. So this is what is there. Now, in the present context, who is Yaksh and Yakshini? In fact, each and every village of India, even in the present context, they do have a Yaksh and Yakshini. So what you call Kula Devata and Kul Devi are what? Folk god and goddess. And who are they? Yaksh and Yakshini. Okay? So every god, like every village of India has Yaksh and Yakshini. Moreover, let's bring some more new aspect to it. You all have seen a very popular movie last year, Kantara. And in Kantara, what is the character? Bhutakola. Okay? So what are they? They are Yaksha. Okay? And now you can connect it, that how you will be able to remember it, that how he was becoming a demon. Those who have, how many of you have seen the movie? A good number of people. Good. जिन्होंने नहीं देखा है, देख लो जाके. ठीक है? Obviously that this is based on the belief system of the particular area, that what people follow, and in fact your cultural knowledge also enhances with the movie. So obviously you have seen that if you don't go by the words of the Panjurli, so what happens? Okay? That death is the testimony. Okay? So now you can associate. So Yaksha and Yakshini, ठीक है, they are elements of the folk culture. लोग हो सकता है बुद्धिज्म भी फॉलो कर रहे हैं, हिंदुज्म भी फॉलो कर रहे हैं, लेकिन that कुल देवता और कुल देवी की पूजा नहीं छोड़ते हैं. ठीक है? So that happens. And in Gram Devata, Gram Devi, in fact entire village worships. And in fact in many pockets of India, you must have observed, if you are from the rural areas, you must have observed that कि कोई ना कोई तो डेट होता है गांव में जिस दिन पूरा गांव एक साथ पूजा करने जाता है बाहर की तरफ. ठीक है? So you must have seen that. So this is all. So in common terms we call them Yaksha and Yakshini. So actually the representation of these deities were there at this point of time. ठीक है? Now understand further. So in Hinduism, there was a very famous puja during the Maurya age, Saptamatrika puja. So in Saptamatrika puja, 7 Yakshinis were worshipped. Then in Jainism, they do come up with the concept of the 24 Yakshini. Just like 24 Tirthankars would be there, we'll be talking about them in the Jainism. So Vardhaman Mahavir was the last Tirthankar. So 24 Tirthankar ke counterpart 24 Yakshinis, they are also worshipped. And so as in the Buddhism, Yakshini images are often created on the Vedika and the gateways of the stupa. ठीक है? And they are considered as highly auspicious. So एक बार लिखो, ठीक है? In this age, images of Yaksh and Yakshini images of Yaksh and Yakshini folk god or goddess brackets में लिख लेना folk god and folk goddess brackets closed were created. Folk god and goddess were created. They were highly revered. They were highly revered. Revered, R-E-V-E-R-E-D, revered in all the three practicing religions of that time. In all the three practicing religions of that time, that is Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism. That is Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism. Then mention in Hinduism, Yaksha worship is mentioned in Mahabharata. Yaksha worship is mentioned in Mahabharata and Sapta Matrika Puja. I'm writing on board, you can see the spelling. Sapta Matrika Puja and Sapta Matrika Puja was very much practiced in the Hindu society. During Maurya period. And चाहो तो brackets में लिखो worship of 7 Yakshinis. Worship of 7 Yakshinis. Practiced in the Hindu society, full stop, brackets में लिखो worship of 7 Yakshinis is Saptamatrika Puja. Then mention further after it. So in Jainism, the worship of 24 Yakshinis was practiced. Worship of 24 Yakshinis was practiced during Maurya age. Full stop. Similarly, in Buddhism, Yakshini figures are considered as highly auspicious. Yakshini figures are considered as highly auspicious. And Yaksh was considered as deity of D-E-I-T-Y, deity of strength and power. Deity of strength and power. And their sculptures were often represented on the gateways of stupa. For example, for example, mention Sal Bhanjika Yakshini, Sal Bhanjika Yakshini of Sanchi Stupa. Sal Bhanjika Yakshini of Sanchi Stupa. Then, and you write a little bit about the Sal Bhanjika Yakshini. So, mention in this particular image, in this particular image, Yakshini is holding, Yakshini is holding branch of a salt tree, branch of a salt tree. Yakshini is holding branch of a salt tree. Then, so that's about the this image. So their images were created, okay, but then Buddha's image was not created at this point of time. And later on, when we are going to talk about the religion and philosophy part, so then we'll discuss about the assemblies of the Buddhism. There we'll get to know that how the image worship has started in the Buddhism. Okay? So this is what is all about the Maurya age. Now we are moving to the post-Maurya age. In post-Maurya age, the three important things that we are going to see is the cave architecture, so as the stupa, and the most important is the sculpture. Okay? So in sculpture, there would be much more elaborate things. Okay? So mention a title, post-Maurya age. Mention post-Maurya age. Post-Maurya age. And now understand. So in post-Maurya age, what all things are there? Then, so let's start with the caves first, and caves ke baad then we'll go into the sculpture part. So as far as the caves are concerned, then so there are two ways we'll be learning the caves of the post-Maurya age. One is the structures, the different type of the structures which existed, and the purpose wise there were two type of the caves. So let's look at the structure wise. Okay? So as far as the structure is concerned, there were three type of the structures of the caves at this point of time, and these three structures are known as apsidal vault cave with pillar. Then second, apsidal vault cave without pillar. Then, and the third one is quadrangular hall, quadrangular hall, flat roof cave. Quadrangular hall, flat roof cave. Okay? So these are the three type of the structures which existed at this point of time. So might be नाम लिखने के टाइम पे it might seem difficult to you, it's very easy. इसमें कुछ नहीं समझना है, just we need to know the structure, how it looks like, and then the examples. So let's have a discussion on these type of the caves. So very first one, if you want, you can write it as a heading. So what is apsidal vault? The cave which is half wagon shape. So this kind of shape is called as apsidal vault. Then जहां पे छत ऊपर जाने के टाइम पे ऐसे मुड़ गई हो, ठीक है, सो दैट रूफ इज कॉल्ड एज अपसाइडल वॉल्ट. सो शेप का नाम है अपसाइडल वॉल्ट. मोर ओवर व्हाट वी हैव मेंशन अपसाइडल वॉल्ट केव विथ पिलर, तो अंदर की तरफ ऑब्वियसली देयर वुड बी पिलर्स. ठीक है, सो लेट्स क्रिएट पिलर्स इन दिस पर्टिकुलर केव. नो व्हाट ओके. So this type of lined pillars would be there from both the sides in this cave? And पीछे की तरफ इसमें what they do that they create a stupa at the back side, small stupa, but cave के अंदर. So this is how the apsidal vault cave with pillar look like. अब इसमें चाहो तो लेबलिंग कर सकते हो that this is called as apsidal vault. The roof part is called as apsidal vault. अगर जो ये वर्ड समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, इन हिंदी यू मस्ट हैव हर्ड अबाउट अ वर्ड संदूक. ठीक है, संदूक का टॉप कैसे होता था? ठीक है, सो दैट इज नाउ अब याद रहेगा. सो नाउ and these are pillars obviously, so lined, so many pillars are lined up, and the stupa which is inside, ठीक है, अंदर जो स्तूपा बनता है किसी भी क्लोज स्ट्रक्चर के अंदर, if there is a stupa, so that stupa is called as votive stupa. So this stupa we mention as votive stupa. That's it, votive stupa. Then तुम लोगों में से कुछ लोग क्लास खत्म होने के टाइम पे आओगे. वो सिर्फ मुझे देखने आते हैं, जो लोग बहुत लेट आते हैं. लिखो, सो मेंशन यू राइट, एग्जाम्पल लिखो. कुछ भी इसमें लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है, जस्ट एग्जाम्पल यू राइट. स्ट्रक्चर इटसेल्फ इज कंप्लीट. सो इन एग्जाम्पल यू राइट अजंता केव, अजंता केव, भज केव, BHAJA, भज केव, कार्ला केव, कान्हेरी केव. ये all of them are in Maharashtra. So Ajanta, Bhaj, Karla, Kanheri. नहीं दिख रहा है? जस्ट 1 मिनट. हाँ, स्पेलिंग गलत हो गया है यहाँ बीच में. KAR. बोले. नाउ सेकेंड वन, ठीक है, आई विल नॉट स्टॉप एट इट. सो सेकेंड केव यू लिसन, अपसाइडल वॉल्ट केव विदाउट पिलर. बहुत सिंपल है. हाउ इट विल लुक लाइक? सेम सेम, सारे पिलर्स हटा दो. ठीक है, सो दिस पार्ट एंड देन दैट्स इट. ठीक है, सो अपसाइडल वॉल्ट केव विदाउट पिलर, एग्जाम्पल्स यू राइट. थाना नदसुर केव, थाना नदसुर केव, it's also in Maharashtra. And then Kapoteshwara cave of Sezarla. Kapoteshwara cave of Sezarla. Sezarla. So now this is Andhra. Then mention the third one. Third one बहुत simple है. Quadrangular heart. So what do you mean by quadrangular? 4 walls would be there. ठीक है, तो 4 दीवारें होंगी. And flat roof, so just like the room. ठीक है, so it's very simple that it's a flat roof cave. ठीक है, so quadrangular hall, flat roof cave, And there is only one example of this cave, that is Kondivite cave. Kondivite cave, once again from Maharashtra. So original name is Mahakali Kondivite cave. Done? So ये थोड़ा factual part है, but then all these structures, they do have a different specific purpose. So let's look at the purpose wise. ठीक है? So purpose wise, while you are writing, so purpose wise two type of the caves were there. One is called as Chaitya, another is called as Vihar. Okay, so Chaitya and Vihar. Now understand. So Chaitya were those cave which had the pillars and votive stupa. ठीक है, so कौन सा structure होगा इसमें से? Apsidal vault with pillar. ठीक है, so and चैत्याज वेयर द प्रेयर हॉल फॉर द monks. Obviously जिसमें स्तूपा होगा वहीं पे तो प्रेयर हॉल होगा. ठीक है, so that was the prayer hall for the monks. When it comes to this type of the cave, so second type, ठीक है, so that apsidal vault cave without pillar, so they were viharas generally, जिसमें पिलर्स भी नहीं है, स्तूपा भी नहीं है. एंड व्हाट आर विहारास? रेस्टिंग प्लेसेस फॉर द बुद्धिस्ट monks. ठीक है, now understand that Buddhist monks particularly rested in the viharas only in the monsoon season. ठीक है, and that monsoon season, as you know, that the 4 months, and moreover this monsoon season stay of the Buddhist was called as Vassa. ठीक है, so monsoonal stay लिखवा दूंगा, पहले just समझो. ठीक है, so is called as Vassa, and in this Vassa, so they are actually trying to retrospect their own personality and then correct whatever flaws are there in their personality. In fact, many a time they all confessed their sins, their crimes, their guilt to each other, and it was a phase of the correction in one's life. Okay? So that's 4 months. And moreover, as we say, so for example, that in Apsidal Vault Cave we have written Ajanta. बाद में जब नेक्स्ट वाले टॉपिक में इन गुप्ता व्हेन वी आर फर्दर गोइंग टू रीड इलॉबरेटली अबाउट अजंता, सो देन वी गेट टू नो अजंता में दोनों है. व्हाट इज दैट? चैत्य एंड विहार. सो देर आर 4 चैत्यास एंड 25 विहारास. सो इन मेजोरिटी ऑफ द केव कॉम्प्लेक्सेस दैट वी हैव रिटन, दोनों टाइप के केव होंगे. ठीक है, सो चैत्य भी होगा, विहारा भी होगा. सो लिखो मेंशन पर्पस वाइज केव एज अ हेडिंग. पर्पस वाइज केव. Then and in this you write, so purpose wise में लिखो that very first one, number one, Chaitya, Chaity, Chaitya. These caves had had pillars and a votive stupa. Pillars and a votive stupa. Votiva, votive stupa. It was meant for prayers. It was meant for prayers and worship. Meant for prayer and worship by the Buddhist monks. By the Buddhist monks. Then number two, you write Vihara. Vihara में लिखो mention. These were resting places for the monks. These were resting places for the monks. Then viharas were mainly meant for monsoonal stay of Buddhist monks. Monsoonal stays of Buddhist monks. Full stop. This monsoonal stay was known as Vassa. This monsoonal stay was known as Vassa, Vassa, and it was meant for purification of character and soul. It was meant for purification of character and soul. Character and soul. Then, so this is what is about the cave architecture. Okay. Now, cave, we started with the Maurya age, and then we are further talking about the caves at this particular place. In Gupta age, the cave episode would be final, and there we will elaborately discussing about the caves like Ajanta, Ellora, okay, these all. And moreover, so you might be thinking that ki wahi same cave we are going to discuss in the post-Maurya also and then in the Maurya also. The reason is the development of the caves have taken hell lot of time then. And in fact, if we talk about the Ajanta itself, so 29 caves of Ajanta did not develop overnight. Okay? It took many phases and 600 years then for all the caves to be completed. Then, and moreover, one of the reason that why they have taken so much of time, their patronizers were different. So किसी ने एक बनवाया, फिर किसी और ने दूसरा बनवाया. So ऐसे करके, ठीक है? So it took almost 600 years for its complete development. Then, starting in the post-Maurya age and going till the Gupta, end of the Gupta age. So we'll discuss about that further. जो भी बचा है, that in the Gupta age. Now let's come to the most important topic as far as the architecture section is concerned. Why most important? In mains examination they have asked this in last 10 years 3 times. ठीक है? और सेम आंसर होगा. क्वेश्चन वो बोलते हैं ना कि हाथ इधर से पकड़ो या इधर से पकड़ो. ठीक है? नहीं, कान ने हाथ पकड़ा था. हाँ, मैं भूल गया, मेरा दिमाग नहीं काम कर रहा है. सो ओहो. कुछ दक्षिणा दे दो, कोई नहीं है तो. So listen. So basically, that all the 3 time when the question was asked, so answers were always similar. Okay? And now what we are going to do in the today's class, that would be, I would say I will go overboard, particularly for this topic, much more than enough. ठीक है? कहीं पे भी चाहे prelims में सवाल आए, चाहे mains में आए, easily कर ले जाओगे. ठीक है? But then obviously I'll be using, as you know, that I'll be using many such generic phenomena as also some movies and some that kind of Netflix series also. ठीक है? Just to make you that कि तुम उसको आसानी से समझ के याद रख सको. So let's start with the, so there are two aspects of it. ठीक है? Sculpture में that we are going to first the initial basis, ठीक है, in which कि कौन से area में which all materials were used, what all influence were there, how many religions were associated with a particular sculpture. So that's a kind of a generic information, and then we'll go into the specific, in which we are going to talk about the features. Then, so in features part, that first of all we will talk about that contrasting features, and then after we will go into the specific features of each and every sculpture. So understand that in the post-Maurya age, there were 3 centers of the production of the sculpture, and the 3 centers of the production were, one is the in and around area of the Mathura. So that's why we call Mathura style of architecture. Then second, in and around area of the Gandhar. So Gandhar was one of the Mahajanpad, then Takshasilas. Okay? So that area was another center of the production of the sculpture. So we call that kind of sculpture as the Gandhar sculpture, and then so as Amravati or Vengi. ठीक है? But एक चीज और समझना, that when we are talking about, suppose that I'm going to talk about the Gandhar sculpture, so it does not mean that Gandhar, say if we have found 1000 sculptures of that time, so all of them are exactly similar. What we are going to discuss, that in Gandhar area, what all types of the sculpture existed. समझ रहे हो? तो ऐसा नहीं है कि एक स्कल्पचर का कोई फीचर लिखा है तो दैट इज एप्लीकेबल टू द अदर स्कल्पचर ऑल्सो. सो देर इज ए वेराइटी ऑल्सो विद इन द कॉम्पोजिशंस. I hope you're understanding. ठीक है? So variety within the compositions, that also we will see. ठीक है? So let's start with, so here we will go in a tabular form. So table बना के and then we are going to start with the things. ठीक है? So create a table. So initial table here, क्या है ये? एक basis का यहाँ पे I'll create, and these tables will be extended time and again. Then this I'm keeping for Amravati, sorry, Gandhar, then Mathura, and then Amravati. So now this side you write basis, फिर यहाँ पे in the middle you write Gandhar, then Mathura, Amravati. Amravati is also called as Vengi. Then, so in basis, very first thing you write, just give me a minute. Gandhar, Mathura, Amravati. Area. So area में Gandhar is North West Frontier Province. साथ साथ में लिखते चलो. This is just a factual stuff. So mention North West Frontier Province. Then Mathura, obviously it is Mathura area, but then some specific areas in the Mathura. So Sonk, Kankali, Tila. And Mathura. And the other one, so this side Amravati mentioned lower Krishna Godavari Valley. Lower Krishna Godavari Valley. And what you call as KG Basin. ठीक है? So Krishna Godavari Basin in Andhra particularly. Then after area, next you write material. So material used for construction. Here you write grey sandstone plus blue cyst. I have forgotten spelling of cyst. Is it like this? No. Geography में पढ़ा होगा cyst. बताओ. Acid? Just give me 1 minute. चलो लिख लो. If you know, so you write. मैं गलत ही स्पेलिंग लिख दे रहा हूँ. लिखो जिसको सही याद हो. I'll write what you have written. Yep. I'll check. Actually, my mind is not. हाँ, this is Sai. You tell. सब लोग मत बोलो नहीं तो मेरा दिमाग. I. That's it. Fine. ठीक है. So blue cyst. Then Mathura. See, if my spelling would not be right, so then color would be right. Red sandstone. So, and then you write last one, white marble. White marble. So after material, influence you write. In this part, third part you write influence. So इसमें बहुत सारे influence है. We call it Greco-Bactrian, Central Asian influence. Greco-Bactrian, Central Asian, and Roman influence. And Roman influence. Done. In brackets, you can further mention, combinedly these all are called as Hellenistic influence. Hellenistic influence. Then, and this side you write no outside influence. No outside influence. Here also no outside influence. Then after influence, let's go into the next detail. Religions associated. Religions associated. So these all we are going to define in the features. Greco-Bactrian kya hai? Roman and Central Asian, all the influences we'll be discussing. So religions associated, so it will include in Gandhar only Buddhism. Okay? So it had images related only to Buddhism. Mathura mein all the three religions are there. Okay? So Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism. So it has images related to the three religions. Okay? And Amravati is only Buddhism. Only Buddhism. Then come to the next one, patronization. So mention the last one in basis, patronization. So Gandhar was patronized by Kushan dynasty. So Kushanas. Mathura is also patronized by Kushanas. And as far as the Amravati is concerned, so Amravati was patronized by two dynasties. Just give me Satvahan and Ikshvaku. Satvahan and Ikshvaku. Satvahans and Ikshvakus. So this is the basis part. बहुत simple है, that the stone and the places and then these all. ठीक है? But then the questions are asked on the basis of the features. ठीक है? So now we are going into the features. उसके पहले, before going into the features, understand that as we mentioned that in one such style there were many such different type of images also. So for example, जैसे यहीं देख लो, ठीक है? Here what we have written in Gandhar, these all influences are there. So does it mean कि जितना लिखा है सब के सब एक ही image में है? No. It can be there in the different images. So for example, some images might have Greco-Bactrian influence, some of them have Central Asian influence, some of them have Roman influence. ठीक है? So this is how the things were there. Then apart from it, in Hinduism, that in Mathura we said that here also that not the similar kind of that sculptures are there. A composite sculpture with different attributes were there. So obviously, so Buddhism images were obviously not similar to the Hinduism. एंड हिंदुइज्म के इमेजेस ऑब्वियसली नॉट सिमिलर टू द जैनिज्म, सो यहाँ खुद ही डाइवर्सिटी हो गई क्योंकि 3 रिलीजन है, ठीक है. सेम वे in Amravati there is altogether different case. So now understand. First we will go ahead with the Mathura and Gandhar. We will write the features of the Mathura and Gandhar. इसी same table में, ठीक है. And in these features what we are going to do, that there are some features of the Mathura and Gandhar which are contrast, meaning that what you write in Mathura will be opposite of that will be true in the Gandhar. Okay, so those features we will list in the beginning, and then after we will write the specific feature. So for example जैसे Gandhar हो गया, तो we will talk about the Greco-Bactrian features, then we talk about the Central Asian features, then we talk about the Roman features of the Gandhar sculpture. ठीक है, so लिखो, टेबल को आगे बढ़ाओ, and so this table, not any other table, ये बोर्ड में obviously for me it is a kind of impediment. एंड अमरावती हम बाद में लिखेंगे, ठीक है. सभी टेबल्स बना लो, बट देन अमरावती विल बी राइटिंग इन द लास्ट. सो here you mention features, then Gandhar. Already you have written, तुम्हें लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. I am writing over here. You just extend your tables. Then so now when it comes to features, so as I mentioned that Gandhar and Mathura, the contrasting features we are going to write first, and moreover here at this particular place there is a cheat code. It is very easy to remember. Then though there are so many features but very easy to remember if we go by that systematic code which I am going to use. So as we mentioned कि लगभग 50 से 60% features एक दूसरे के contrast हैं, ठीक है. So meaning that whatever you are writing, if you write opposite of that in the Mathura, that will be correct. So very first thing which I am writing in this particular part is image of the spiritual Buddha. Okay, so spiritual Buddha. Now you tell me that spiritualism में कोई emotion का depiction होता है face पे? Do they depict any emotion on the face? कौन सा emotion है भैया spiritualism में? हाँ मैं spiritual हूँ, ठीक है. So no such emotion depiction is there. Then that whereby that the spirituality leads to that even status. What is even status? You're always similar. Then so no such emotions would be there. But then opposite of the no emotion would be emotion. And here the opposite of this is delighted Buddha. Okay, so there is an emotion which is visible, that is delighted Buddha. Now on the basis of it, let's derive the physical features of the person. So tell me that if a person is spiritual, will he, that if the person is spiritual, if you look at his head, his hairs, so his hairs would be combed or that they will be wavy, just like yours. Take it. So now wavy hair. Then so now the next one, ठीक है, तुम मुंह छुपा लो. So now the next one is that if you look at his face, then so his face, that beards and mustaches would be visible or not? Yeah, so the spiritual person obviously he would not be so much interested in kind of saving his face all the time. So spiritualism, but आजकल फैशन है वो मुझे पता है, ठीक है, वो अलग चीज है, ठीक है. So spiritual person, that beards and mustaches or unshaven face would be there. Then apart from that, a spiritual person generally he's depicted with full open eyes or half closed eyes. Half closed eyes, ठीक है. So half closed eyes. So एक एक करके लिखते चलते हैं. So mention wavy hair, then half closed eyes, then unshaven face, then you tell कि spiritual person will he be wearing so many ornaments or very less ornaments? But question तो ये है कि very less भी क्यों पहनेंगे? ठीक है? Obviously that if he is spiritual, so he must not be wearing any ornaments. So why we write very less ornaments? Because there are some ornaments which are considered as spiritual. ठीक है? So like Rudraksh, like Sphatik, हाँ, so Sphatik you have I've seen that. That is a kind of transparent bead which people wear. Then yeah, Tulsi Mala bhi ho gayi. So that is an ornament, but it's a kind of a not a luxurious ornament. So that's why we'll be writing very less ornaments. Then apart from it, if we talk about that, when we talk about the spiritual person, so will he be wearing so much of opulent cloth? Opulent ka matlab luxurious cloth? No. So very simple cloth and optimum cloth would be there. So that is one type. Then moreover, do you consider that a spiritual person, that his body would be so much of having so much of fat? Will be so much of fat would be visible? No, obviously. So spiritual person he will not be indulging in the food. Okay? So he will be eating only that much which is enough for survival of the body. So he will be having a kind of a fit body, we can say. Okay? Sometimes the spiritualism demands, ठीक है, not in all the images, अब इसको ध्यान से समझना, that sometimes spiritualism demands meditation for hours and hours, for days and days. So in that situation, muscles and veins would be visible. कभी कभी तो rib भी visible होगा. So these all features we are writing here. So लिखो, आगे ऐड करो. So unshaven face के बाद very less ornaments. Very less ornaments. Then optimum clothing, luxurious कुछ भी नहीं होगा. Then less slim body, slim भी लिख सकते हो, slim नहीं लिखेंगे, less fat in body, and sometimes muscles, veins and ribs visible. Muscles, veins and ribs visible. दिख रहा है? लिख लिया? Now tell me the opposite of this all. Spiritual का opposite हमने delighted लिख लिया है. So wavy hair का opposite combed hair. ठीक है? Mention combed hair. Then half closed eyes, open eyes. ठीक है? वैसे तो delighted people are always sleeping. So open eyes. Then in this one, shaven face. Opposite बस लिख लो, ठीक है? Very less ornaments, more ornaments. More ornaments. And luxurious cloth. Like silk, ये सब भी depict होने लगेगा, ठीक है? So luxurious cloths. Then less fat in body, इन दोनों को combine करके what we are writing, that round body. ठीक है? आलू पैक, round body. ठीक है? So that will be visible. And moreover, एक और difference है दोनों के बीच में. The difference is that this image, ठीक है, is more of a tall. अभी नहीं लिखना, ठीक है? We'll write in the other one. And this image, that the height used to be shorter than the Gandhar. But don't write it over here. This we write in the Roman features. ठीक है? So this is what is about the common contrasting features of this particular Mathura and Gandhar. तो easy है remember करना, बस एक ही चीज याद रखो, in Gandhar spiritual Buddha, and just on the basis of the spiritual Buddha you just remember that, visualize that what will be the features of the spiritual person. So combed hair नहीं होगा, ठीक है? Then Accordingly, those all features we have mentioned. So how he'll be looking. Then uska opposite is side में कर दो, ठीक है? That will be the Mathura's feature. But specific ones, we need some more examples, and then not all of you are well versed with those examples which we are going to write. So just give me one. So Gandhar itself would be quite big, and so as the Mathura. अमरावती में कुछ नहीं बना रहा हूं अभी, फिलहाल जरूरत नहीं है मुझे. So now I'm going into the specific features of these Gandhar Mathura. So in specific features of the Gandhar, what I'm writing, the very first thing is the Greco-Bactrian influence or feature. Greco-Bactrian feature. So now अब ये अलग वाले कॉलम में नहीं लिख रहा हूं, जहां पे फीचर्स हमने लिखे थे उसी में we are creating it. So Greco-Bactrian feature. What is Greco? From the Greece area, and Greece is basically Macedonia. So Greco-Bactrian is originally Macedonia, and what is Macedonia? We have already studied that. So ग्रीस से स्टार्ट होते हुए द ओल्ड कंट्री ऑफ यूगोस्लाविया, ठीक है, जिसमें आजकल बहुत सारे कंट्रीज बन चुके हैं, ठीक है, सर्बिया, अल्बानिया, ठीक है, एन नंबर ऑफ द कंट्री, चेकोस्लोवाकिया. सो this area. So in this area, what was the feature? So this is the area from where we get to know about one old mythology. And what is that mythology? Greek mythology, Greek civilization. So Greek civilization, ध्यान से समझना, it had it. Now there are no more any practitioner of these Greek religion, ठीक है, because that religion has been overtaken by the Islam and Christianity, ठीक है. But then those were the time that Greek religion has different kind of gods. Then, so can you tell me some of the gods of the Greek religion? Olympus, Zeus, ठीक है, Apollo, then Hercules, Hades, then Poseidon. Have you heard about it? ठीक है. So these all were the gods. आजकल कहाँ मिलते हैं? सिर्फ हॉलीवुड की मूवीज में, ठीक है, वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड की मूवीज में. देन अदरवाइज दे आर नॉट देयर इन द टूडेज टाइम. सो these were the inspiring, ठीक है, features in the Gandhar sculpture. So let's talk about it, that how the inspiration is taken into it. So for example, that the very first thing is wavy hair itself is a feature of the Greek civilization, ठीक है. So in majority of their gods, if you look at their images, then so they will be having the wavy hairs. Then so that is one part. Then another thing is basically that one of the very famous god in the Greek civilization was Apollo, ठीक है, Apollo. And in fact with this name many such chains are also running, ठीक है, and in fact in these hospital chains basically. So Apollo is considered as the epitome of the most fit body, ठीक है, that's why most fit body, most smart body and very handsome body, ठीक है. So the face of Apollo, ध्यान से समझना, is considered as the most handsome face ever created on the planet Earth. Then, and the symmetry, the contours of the face, they are they are considered the epitome of the best. So now there is a different kind of grace in the image of the Apollo. And when they were creating the Buddha's image, then so they were inspired from the Apollo's image, and many of the sculptures of the Buddha, they had the hell lot of similarity with the Apollo. So grace of the Buddha's face was also inspired from the face of the Apollo. So that is first thing. Then many a places Buddha's image was also inspired from the image of the Zeus, ठीक है. So Zeus is another very important god in the Greek civilization. Then apart from it, some of the images of the Buddha are shown very muscular, ठीक है. So this muscularity is inspired from the Greek gods like or semi-gods of the Greek civilization, that is Atlas, ठीक है, Olympus, Hades. Then so their bodies, which is very kind of that that muscled body, so that was also depicted in the images. So these are the features that we get from the Greek civilization or basically the Greco-Bactrian civilization. So एक बार लिखो एक एक करके mention करो that features में wavy hair, inspired from Greek gods. Wavy hair inspired from Greek gods. Then number 2, then can you give me 1 minute? I'll just have to read one report. Just generally I'll not do this thing, but then right, mention. So what is the last line? So wavy hair inspired from the Greek gods. Okay. Then you write the grace of the grace of Buddha's face. Buddha's face was inspired from the Greek god Apollo. From the Greek god Apollo. Then mention masculinity of some of the images. इसके बाद वाला लिखो masculinity of some of the images. Masculinity of some of the images was inspired from the Greek gods, semi-gods, Greek semi-gods लिखना, semi-gods Atlas, Olympus, Hades, etc. Hades, etc. Atlas, Olympus, Hades, etc. Then, so this is what is about the Greek features of this particular part. Okay. So Greek features. Then Greek के बाद, so let's move to the second one, Central Asian features. So इसी में लिखो mention Central Asian features. So now understand that what were the Central Asian features. So when you look at the images of that Buddha which are there from this place, so there would be ornamentation in the head. Okay, so they will be wearing that, they are depicted with wearing some sort of crown or some sort of ornaments in the hair. So that is basically inspired from the Central Asia. Then apart from it, beards and mustaches were also very common in the Central Asia. Okay, so this is also a Central Asian feature. Then another figure, okay, another important image or that inspiration from the Central Asia, that sometimes images of Buddha or Bodhisattva, they were depicted with holding some sort of weapon. Okay, so in Roman tradition, in Greco-Bactrian tradition, there is no weapon kind of thing, but in the Central Asian tradition, they are holding some sort of weapons. Okay, so likho, mention Central Asian में लिखो, very first one, that ornamentation in the hair lock. Ornamentation in the hair lock. ठीक है. Number 2, ornamentation in the hair lock. उसके बाद then beards and mustaches. Number 3, sometimes images of Buddha and Bodhisattva, sometimes images of Buddha and Bodhisattva are depicted holding weapon. Depicted holding a weapon. Depicted holding a weapon. Right? So this is the Central Asian feature. Okay? Central Asian feature. Then the last one you write Roman features of the Gandhar sculpture. So mention Roman features. Gandhar only. In Gandhar only everything you are writing. What he is asking. Which type of weapon? अब बंदूक लेके थोड़ी खड़े हैं, ठीक है? हाँ, it's kind of a traditional weapon, ठीक है? अब पूरा का पूरा क्लियर होगा तो अभी इमेज में देख लेना, ठीक है? विल वेट फॉर इट, ठीक है? खुद ही आइडेंटिफाई कर लेना ये एनफील्ड राइफल है या फिर देन मिसलर गन है, ठीक है? सो Roman features. So Roman features basically here I would like to tell you something from the Roman mythology and what is it? So understand first of all that how many of you have seen that movie Gladiator? Raise your hands. कम लोगों ने देखा है एक जमाना था कि पूरी पूरी क्लास देखी होती थी सो ग्लैडिएटर कम लोगों ने देखा है सो नाउ आई टेल यू समथिंग रिलेटेड टू द ग्लैडिएटर्स सो बेसिकली that acha have you heard about if you have not seen Gladiator so have you heard about the Italy's Colosseum then it is considered as one of the wonder of the world moreover what is unique about the Colosseum what is Colosseum it's an amphitheater what is amphitheater stadium okay so one of the earliest stadiums of the world then and in this amphitheater what all games were played ग्लैडिएटर गेम्स क्रिकेट नहीं होता था ठीक है सो ग्लैडिएटर गेम्स वेर प्लेड एंड व्हाट वाज द ग्लैडिएटर गेम द फाइट बिटवीन मैन एंड द वाइल्ड बीस्ट ठीक है so the fight between man and wild beast and moreover the person who is fighting the man who is fighting he was called as gladiator and then moreover the wild beast could be anyone okay could be any such animal it could be tiger lion or any such wild animal and it can be the fight can be that on one hand there is one gladiator and then 3-4 animals so he will have to defend himself against them all then and sometimes if he is defending himself against the animals so at the same point of time he will also have to defend himself against the other gladiators okay so this used to be a kind of a not kind of it was a deadly game the first deadly games of the world so obviously if anybody is going to fight this deadly game his physical attributes must be very strong होना चाहिए ठीक है ये तो जेनरिक पता चल रहा है so actually in Roman sculpture this depiction used to be there that physical attributes were very strong then and physical attributes in the Roman sculptures they depicted the attributes of the gladiators then so same was copied over here also in the Gandhar that in majority of their images the very robust physical features so एक तो simple सा robust physical feature हो गया height ठीक है so they were some of the images of the Gandhar used to be very tall then so taller images then apart from it other physical features that large forehead ठीक है large earlobe and broad chest and broad shoulders ठीक है so these were the attributes which were depicted but moreover though the body proportions are shown in a that kind of a bigger way but एक और चीज है they were realistic कुछ बनावटी नहीं होता था ठीक है so realism was the keynote of the Gandhar sculpture particularly the one which were inspired from the this particular part why there is a giggling या तो शांति से पढ़ लो या फिर देन गिगलिंग ही करो ठीक है सो एंड उसके भी पैसे मिलते हैं गिगलिंग करने के ऑब्वियसली इट्स अ प्रोफेशन आजकल की दुनिया में क्या प्रोफेशन नहीं है गो एंड टॉक शिट ऑन द यूट्यूब पैसे मिलेंगे उसके सो दैट्स व्हाट इज इट इज कॉल्ड एज कलयुग ठीक है कुछ भी करो पर फर्क पड़ता है कहां पे कर रहे हो ठीक है सो नाउ लिखो इसमें लिखो मेंशन so very first you write tall images then second you write large forehead Third, large earlobe, large forehead, large earlobe. Then broad chest and shoulders. Broad chest and shoulders. Then mention real realistic depiction of the images. Realistic depiction of images. Then so these are the features. So why I was saying this to you, that gladiator wala, कि अगर जो दिमाग में gladiator याद है, तो his physical attributes you will be able to remember. In fact, if you are not able to remember the gladiator, so of course the person who played the character of the gladiator in that movie was Russell Crowe. And if you look at his face, so these all images would be in front of you. That large forehead, large earlobe, ठीक है? Broad chest, broad shoulders. Then, so this is how the Gandhar sculpture was. ठीक है? It's little longer. ठीक है? थोड़ा ज़्यादा है इसमें. But then, if you plan it, that how you're going to remember it, and then attach these with some sort of the different things that you have seen or observed, so याद रहेगा. ठीक है? Otherwise तो factual stuff है. भूलने के लिए ही होता है factual stuff. So let's come to the next part, which is Mathura. So Mathura में already we have written the contrasting feature. एक बात समझना, this contrasting feature that we have mentioned, it is the feature of the Buddhism. ठीक है? अब Hinduism में images, इनके specific features में Hinduism would be the one aspect and Jainism would be the another aspect. So what we are writing in the specific features of the Mathura, Jainism पहले. ठीक है? So Jainism. So now understand, in Jainism, they created images of the Tirthankars, and later on when we are going to start religion and philosophy, we will talk about the Tirthankars. So Jainism was basically, okay, a religion which was contribution of the 24 personalities, and they all were called as Tirthankars. The first was the Rishabdev and the last was the Vardhaman Mahavir. So in this style, okay, that Tirthankars images were depicted. Then moreover, the most often repeated image was the Vardhaman Mahavir. Vardhaman Mahavir was always depicted in a naked form. Then, and in this naked form, when he is depicted, so his body is depicted with animals. Okay? He is surrounded by many animals, and even the snakes and the creepers are entangling his body. Okay? So mention karo that images of 24 Tirthankars. Images of 24 Tirthankars were created. 24 Tirthankars were created. Then mention after it. The most often repeated was the image of Vardhaman Mahavir. Then mention Vardhaman Mahavir. He was always depicted in the nude form. Always depicted in the nude form and surrounded by various animals, creepers and snakes. Various animals, creepers and snakes. Then let's come to the next one, Hinduism. So mention Hinduism. So write Hinduism में लिखो Hinduism you mentioned. So just listen first, okay? Images of the Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, and there are that few images of the uh, Shakti and Lakshmi, okay, is also seen. So Shakti is the goddess Durga, and there was one image which was found from the Mathura area, that was Mahishasur Mardini. You understand it, okay? So the image of the goddess Durga, in which she is depicted slaying the demon Mahishasur. Then there are few images of the goddess Lakshmi which has also been found in this tradition, but there are very few, okay? The most abundant images of the Hindu tradition were Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. When it comes to Lord Shiva, so Lord Shiva was depicted in two forms. One is Sivaling and another is the Mukhaling. So Lord Shiva was depicted in the Sivaling and Mukhaling form. So Sivaling all of you know. Then what is Mukhaling? The Sivaling only, but then on the top part of the Sivaling there would be the face of the Lord Shiva. Okay? So just say for example that you see that this kind of Sivaling, then and then on this part, if there would be the face of the Lord Shiva, so that would be Mukhaling. Okay? So these type of the images were created related to the Lord Shiva. When it comes to Lord Vishnu, so then his complete image was created. Okay? No such partial image. So full bodied image, and with all his ayudh. So what is ayudh? That in his real form, Lord Vishnu is depicted with many arms, okay? And each of the arm is holding a different kind of weapon. Then, so for example, in one of the arm, he might be having a Sudarshan Chakra. In the other, he might be having a Gada, mace, then, and then some other arms would also be there, okay? So this complete depiction was there with the Lord Vishnu. So mention karo that, right? In Hinduism, images of goddess Durga, goddess Lakshmi, goddess Durga and goddess Lakshmi, Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu's image was created at this time. Lord Vishnu's image was created at this time. Full stop. Then Lord Shiva was often depicted in Sivaling or Mukhaling form. Was often depicted in Sivaling or Mukhaling form. Then Lord Vishnu was fully depicted. Lord Vishnu was fully depicted with all his ayudh. With all his ayudh. 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 Brackets में लिखो. Arms with weapons. Arms with weapons. Like Sudarshan Chakra. Like Sudarshan Chakra and mace. Sudarshan Chakra and mace. Gada. So that's about okay, these Mathura and Gandhar. So एक बार फिर से वापस से रिवाइज करेंगे, but let's look at the Amravati where we have written nothing about their features. ठीक है? So Mathura Gandhar is a bigger portion. Amravati not, it doesn't have much details like these all. ठीक है? But then obviously we need to write what details are there. So in Amravati, now listen, Amravati was totally different from the Mathura and Gandhar. In what regard? ध्यान से समझना. मथुरा एंड गांधार वी सी सिंगल डोमिनेटिंग इमेजेस. ठीक है? सो एक इमेज बहुत that generally they were creating the single images, but if there are many images, so there would be one image which will be dominating and very big. Then, so single dominating images were the features of the Mathura and Gandhar. But then Amravati, they never created the single images. Okay? In fact, they created panel sculpture. So Amravati is known for panel sculpture. And what is panel sculpture? So generally they created many geometrical panels. Square हो गया, rectangular हो गया, circular हो गया. So these kind of panels were created. And inside the panels, what they are creating, not just the one image, but many images which depict Jatak Katha. Okay? So which depicts Jatak Katha, folk narratives. So n number of the folk stories, folk narratives were depicted in this. So some of the popular folk narratives are that one is the birth of the Buddha, okay? And this folk narrative is called as Queen Maya Devi's dream, okay? Then apart from it, there are good number of Jatakas which are depicted. Ruru Jatak, Chadant Jatak, Virupandit Jatak, okay? So Mahakapi Jatak. So different, these are the names of the stories, and these all stories were depicted in this particular panel. Moreover, one thing is to be remembered that these Jatak Kathas, okay, they were always didactic in nature. So what is didactic? Any idea? You have some, when you read those Jatak Kathas, okay, so these Jatak Kathas have moral ethical lessons for the audiences and the listeners. Okay? So mention karo. In Amravati, single dominating sculptures were not created. In Amravati, single dominating sculptures were not created. Not created. Then mention further. Instead, they created Jatak panels. Instead, they created Jatak panels. Then Jatak panels. Full stop. उसके बाद लिखो. After it, Jatak panel. These panels were based on previous life story of Buddha. Previous life story of Buddha. And the Jatak Kathas. Then full stop के बाद लिखो. These stories are didactic in nature. These stories are didactic, D-I-D-A-C-T-I-C, didactic in nature, and carry moral ethical lesson. For listeners and audiences. Then example likho, some examples. So I'm writing some of the famous Jatak Kathas which are depicted in the Amravati. So example of the Jatak panels. ऐसे लिखो. So of Jatak panel, and in this you write mention. So start with Queen Maya Devi dream. Queen Maya Devi's dream. Then mention after it Queen Maya Devi's dream. Then Mahakapi Jatak. Ruru Jatak. Mar Vijay Jatak. Chadant Jatak, Viru Pandit Jatak. So these are some of the popular stories in this panels. Okay. So Viru Pandit Jatak. Visible? Right? So now just listen. Okay. Key very first one. Queen Maya Devi's dream. So what is depicted in the Queen Maya's Devi dreams? So basically this is the birth story of the Buddha, that how his birth has happened and who has witnessed his birth. So generally क्या होता है that the very first one is the circular panel, and in the circular panel what they will be depicting that there would be a tree, ठीक है, and that tree will look like a peepal tree, banyan tree. Then apart from it, a lady who is laying down, ठीक है, and then she is attended by some people. There would be an elephant at this particular place. Then there would be some angels over here and some flowers they are throwing on her. Okay. So basically this Jatak is the depiction of the story of the birth of the Buddha, and it is considered as a celestial story, that heavenly event in the Buddhism. Okay. So that is one thing. But then these all have some sort of stories. That not all of them I can tell you, but then I'll tell you one of the story out of it. Okay. So I'm choosing this one. This is story. As we mentioned that these Jataka stories were having, okay, that it all had a didactic lessons, okay, or moral ethical lessons for the listener. So Chadant Jatak is a story of that feeling of the jealousy, okay, that what it can do, that how harmful it is. So now understand. So the story goes like this. And who is Chadant? So Chadant, as we mentioned, that Jatak Kathas are previous life story of the Buddha. Okay? Meaning that a generous guy in his previous life, he could be animal, he could be insect, he could be anything. Okay? But then overall, he is an honest, pious and generous guy. Then so Chadant would be the previous form of the Buddha. So Chadant, who was Chadant? Chadant was the elephant. Okay? He was the king of the jungle. And then Chadant was married to the two queens. Then one of them was quite good and another was always jealous. And she was always circumspect about the intentions of the Chadant. So one fine day, as per the story, what happens that one fine day, it was a spring season, and then Chadant decided with the queen that they will be going outside. Okay? So they went to a lake where they started taking the bath. Then after they realized that it's a spring season and then so much of flowering has happened. So let's play. They became playful and they started playing football. Not exactly football. I'm saying football, but that's the game of a ball. So they started playing it, but what happened? So Chadant hit one of the tree which was very closer to the lake. And this tree was blooming with so many beautiful flowers. So the flowers, they fell from the tree. Okay? And flowers, since these flowers, they were very sweet smelling. Okay? So it had large number of the ants. So as per the story, that the flowers fell on the good queen and the ants fell on the bad queen. Okay? So jealous queen. Now jealous queen further became jealous. Then that so she further became jealous that he intentionally did it, okay, to demean my status. So out of her that jealous behavior, okay, that she has taken her life. She has taken a vow that she will reincarnate in a different form, and then she will take the revenge from the Chadant. So now after this incident, she is born as a human being, okay, and that too in a princely state. So she is raised like a princess, and then she got married to the king of that particular area. And moreover, that she is very powerful, obviously queen. So now one fine day, she is remembering all the stories from her previous life, and then one fine day, she published one advertisement. Advertisement was that she wanted the head of Chadant. Okay? So head of the Chadant, and then all the hunters can apply for it. Okay? And whoever brings it, so he will be highly rewarded. So then there was one hunter that who was regarded as the best hunter of the area. So he was called, and then he was given the task. Now the hunter started to make the preparation. He went into jungle, he digged a little bit of that earth, and then he covered that particular digging place with leaves and other stuff. Now what happened when Chadant was moving from that particular place, so with the thunder of his leg only he got to know that there is something fishy over here. Then he got to know कि किसी ने गड्ढा आगे बनाया है, ठीक है? And animals have this kind of attribute that with their they can feel it from their legs itself कि कुछ तो earth में change है. So now he got it then, and then he started shouting. He started shouting that if anybody, वो हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना कि माई का लाल हो तो बाहर आ जाओ. So so then he started shouting that if you're really, ठीक है, courageous enough, so come in front, fight with me, ठीक है? And don't do this cowardice act. So then the hunter, now he was terrified for his life. Then, and then he came forward and he asked for the forgiveness. Then, and he went on to say that I am not responsible for it because I was forcibly sent by the queen. Then, and then he asked that why queen has sent you. So then he told that queen has told me that she want to take the revenge from the previous life from you. Okay? And he told all the story. Chadant was moved by it that if this is causing her pain. So then what he did that he said to the hunter, your task would be fulfilled. He cut his head and gave it to the hunter. Then, so now hunter was not happy with it. Obviously he will not be happy with it, but then he has brought the head of the Chadant to the queen. And when the queen saw it, so initially she was elated that her revenge is over. Then she was going to reward the hunter. So hunter started to cry and he said that I was not able to do it. Then in fact he spared my life. Then he cut his head and gave it to you that you misunderstood him. Okay? Now she was in that so much of repentance, and then हिंदी में क्या बोलते हो, पश्चाताप, ठीक है? And then once again second time she took her life. ठीक है? इतनी बार जिंदगी ही क्यों थी? So the lesson of the story you need to figure out, this is all about the trust, then the feeling of the jealousy. Okay, so even the best of the things can be destroyed with the feelings of the jealousy. Okay, so this is one story, but then all of the stories are interesting like this. Okay, you figure out all these stories then. So अच्छा, एक story से already question आ चुका है, ठीक है, in exam. And not only it is there in the Amravati, but it is also there in the Ajanta. Okay? So that story is this one, Mara Vijay Jatak. Okay? So what is this Mara Vijay Jatak? I'll tell you. Okay? Short में ही बता रहा हूँ. So in this Jataka story, what is depicted that Buddha is in meditation. Okay? So he is doing his meditation, and in his meditation, there is so suppose that Buddha is in the middle, he is doing our meditation over here. There is a demon army which is approaching from this side, and then this demon army is leaving from this side. Okay? So what is this story all about? This story is the story of the Buddha's nirvana, okay? When he has gone into the meditation for the 49 days. Then, so when he was in the middle of his meditation, there is a demon army which is approaching Buddha, okay? And they're trying to disturb him so that he must not attain enlightenment, okay? So enlightenment. So now, when they are disturbing him, okay? So they have asked so many questions, okay? And in the disturbance, they are asking one more question that, that since despite our disturbances created by that, whatever disturbances we have created, these you are unmoved. So tell us that what is the witness of your purity. So then Buddha, he enters into the Bhumi Sparsh Mudra. Okay? So what is this mudra? That his right hand goes like this and touches the earth. Okay? So Bhumi Sparsh Mudra, and then the Bhumi lights up. Okay? Mother Earth lights up, and then she gives her voice that I am witness to his purity. So this is the meaning which was asked in the prelims paper, that what is the meaning of the Bhumi Sparsh Mudra. Okay? And this is part of the Mara Vijay story. So satisfied by the earth witness, the Mara army is going back. Okay? In fact, what is this demon army? So this is a depiction of a demon army, but in originality, what is this? These are the demons of the mind. Okay? So negative vices which are there in the mind. So they are the one who are stopping Buddha from attaining nirvana, and Buddha is able to overcome them. Okay? And that's how these all emotions are gone. So what are these three negative vices? So these three negative vices are jealousy, okay? So jealousy, hatredness, then and then extreme passion. Okay. Moreover, in the story, if you read it in the Jataka Katha, so they give this particular thought process name of a daughter of the Mara. So they say that three daughters of the Mara, Trishna. Okay. So Iksha. So this way. So these three names are given and they are dancing before the Buddha so that Buddha will be kind of that moved away from his meditation. But then he is unmoved. So this is what is the Mara Vijay story. I hope you got it. So this way, these all depictions were there in the Amravati panel. Okay? So now we are done with the part. So sculpture wala part, let's revise it once again. Okay? So many details were there. So features we are going to revise. अब एक बार फिर से वापस से चलते हैं. ठीक है? मथुरा गांधार first. Then so what we mentioned that near about 60% of the features of the Mathura Gandhar are contrasting. Okay? So 50 to 60%, and particularly the Buddhist images, they have contrasting features. So we wrote in the Gandhar spiritual Buddha, and on the basis of it, we derived the different attributes of his body. So wavy hair, okay? Then what else? Half closed eyes, then unshaven face, very less ornaments, optimum clothes, then fat in the body is not there, and then muscles and veins and the ribs are visible. Okay? So these were the features that we wrote on the Gandhar side. On the opposite side, what we are writing opposite. So what is opposite? Spiritual का नहीं, delighted Buddha पहले. ठीक है? And in delighted Buddha, so what else are we are mentioning? So shaven face, that combed hair, shaven face, more ornaments, luxurious clothing, ठीक है? And then round bodies, ठीक है? So this is what we have mentioned. So these were the contrasting features. Then let's come to the specific features. So Gandhar mein specific features. That would be Greco-Bactrian, Roman, and so as the scintillation. So Greco-Bactrian mein kya tha? That many of the images of the Buddha and Bodhisattva were inspired from the Greek gods. So face of the Buddha inspired from the Greek god Apollo and Zeus. ठीक है? Grace is inspired from that, and masculinity of the body is inspired from the Olympus, Hades, and Hercules, Egypt, Hercules, and then Atlas. Then so these gods. Then what about the other scintillation features? So from Central Asia, what was derived? Ornamentation in the hair, okay? Beards and mustaches in the face, and then apart from it, sometime Buddha is and Bodhisattva are holding some sort of weapon, okay? So weapon will figure out, okay? थोड़ी देर में. Then apart from it, the last one was Roman. Okay? So Roman influence, realistic influence, but then very big proportions of the body are depicted. So for example, that large forehead, okay, large earlobe, broad chest and shoulders. Okay? So this is how the things are depicted over here. What about the Mathura specific features, Hinduism and Jainism? So Jainism में क्या था? Images of the 24 Tirthankar most repeated Vardhaman Mahavir. And Vardhaman Mahavir is always depicted in a naked form. He was a Digambara, so he will be depicted in the naked form. And then his image is often surrounded with the animals, creepers and the snakes. Okay? So that's the part. Then in Hinduism, we discuss about few images of the goddess Durga and goddess Lakshmi. But then more images of the Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. Okay? So Lord Shiva was depicted in the form of the so Mukhaling and Sivaling, and Lord Vishnu complete form. Okay? So with his Ayudh, and what is Ayudh? His arms with the weapons. Okay? So that's it. So this is what we mentioned in the Mathura. Let's come to the Amravati. So Amravati is a very different, no dominating single sculpture, but the panel sculpture. And the panel sculptures are based on Jatak Katha. What are Jatak Katha? Previous life story of the Buddha. Okay? So different Jataka Kathas were depicted, and those names we already wrote in that particular list. So this is what is about the sculpture part. So question generally in the mains exam they have asked from the Mathura and Gandhar. अब एक last feature है, ठीक है? Just wait for it, ठीक है? Last feature only in Mathura and Gandhar. So what is it? Let me go into it where you have written it, ठीक है? So the last feature in both of them, that is a similarity. एक मिनट दो मुझे. Hello. Both में there would be halo. What is halo? मथुरा में भी, गांधार में भी. सो हिंदी में बोलते हो आभा मंडल. ठीक है. सो दोनों इमेजेस में पीछे की तरफ आभा मंडल होगा. ठीक है. एंड व्हाट इज आभा मंडल? That halo, that's what we are saying. But there is a one difference. So in this Abha Mandal, then that in Gandhar it's a plain halo and here decorated halo. ठीक है. So लिखो behind the head of Buddha. पहले गांधार में लिखो behind the head of Buddha, plain halo was created. Plain halo was created. Then and on the other side you write mention Mathura side. Halos were created, but they were profusely decorated. Halos were created, but they were profusely decorated. Profusely decorated. Then ये पढ़ लें आज क्या? Image कल देख लेना next class में. Will that be fine? Because I'll be leaving your class in 15 minutes. ठीक है? So don't be too excited. It's not very exciting. ठीक है? Just wait for 1 minute. ठीक है? So we'll see images. We have a number of the classes in the next week. ठीक है? So I'm also in hush and then I can be in that same mode. So एक last topic देख लो. We have seen sculptures. We have seen the caves. Let's talk about the last topic of the post-Mauryan stupa. ठीक है? So mention post-Mauryan stupa. So post-Mauryan stupa. So stupa already we have seen in the Asoka's period, Mauryan age, but then further new developments will happen in the stupa architecture. So what are these new developments? So let's create the image first. I'll not take much of time and then तुम भी जल्दी जल्दी ही बनाना. ठीक है? So let's go ahead with it. So now understand that when you are creating the stupa, तो ये दोनों साइड में थोड़ा सा स्पेस होना चाहिए. ठीक है? That so this you can create as a railings then, and then from here you create इस साइड से stairs बना लो. So this is stair. Then on the top of the stupa, the chhatris that we are going to create, सब कुछ similar है, but the number of the chhatris are going to increase. So I am creating 5, but it can be more than 5. 5. Then inside the stupa premise, one more thing would be there. That is the image, the idol of the Buddha. Right? So idol of the Buddha. And moreover, just like the previous time, now fine. So create a Pradakshina path on the lower side. So this area. So here also I'm creating some sort of this as indicative of the Pradakshina path. And this one is upper Pradakshina path. and this one is lower Pradakshina Path. So PP I have written, that means Pradakshina Path. And then this image is called as Manushi Buddha. Manushi Buddha. Then increasing number of the Chhatris, and these are stairs. Increasing number of Chhatris. Chhatris. Done? Labeling of the topic is required. So now listen. So why these changes are there? I'm not removing the image, but understand. So basically, जब हम Buddhism पढ़ेंगे, so there we talk about the fourth Buddhist council. Till the third Buddhist council, Buddha's idol worship hasn't started when Asoka has convened the council. So that's why we mentioned in Mauryan age that Buddha's images were not created. But post-Maurya age में already Hinayan and Mahayana Buddhism has developed. Okay? So it is the Mahayana Buddhism which is worshipping the idols of the Buddha. Then, so that's why we see the sculptured tradition of the Buddha and we see the sculptures of the Buddha inside the premise of the stupa. Okay? Moreover, that there were two Pradakshina Path. So these two Pradakshina Path are indicative of the two path of the Buddhism. So the lower one was the oldest and it is called as Hinayan. So it is indicative of the Hinayan path of Buddhism. Upper one, Mahayana path of Buddhism. Then apart from it, the Vedika which was created in the Maurya period. ध्यान से समझना that Vedika of the Maurya period was completely wooden. ठीक है? Obviously that wood is not a perishable material. ठीक है? कुछ समय के बाद खराब हो जाएगा. So in post Maurya age, this wooden Vedikas were replaced by the stone Vedika. So that is one development. Another thing that we are noting down the increasing number of the Chhatris in the stupa. So why the Chhatris are increasing? So it is indicative of the growth of the Buddhism. And these Chhatris are increasing in the odd numbers. Then, so in Buddhism, odd is considered as good. Okay? So odd is considered as auspicious. Odd is considered as good. For example, that if you look into the thesaurus, then so what you find that there is a one word phrase used in the English that when you are going into the exam, so people will say that if your odds are good, so you will be selected. कोई ये नहीं कहता है कि if your evens are good, so you will be selected. ठीक है? So evens are for the elimination, odds are for the selection. You are getting it, okay? So odd is considered as auspicious. Moreover, why this auspiciousness is there? So then they look at the many events of the birth of Buddha. They have happened on the odd days, okay? Odd numbers. So for example, birth of Buddha 563 BC. चलो इसको हम अगर जो discount भी कर दें. So his birth, if we are discounting, so when he left his home, age of 29. Then when he achieved nirvana, age of 35, the day of achieving nirvana was the 49th day. His death 483. The day was also an odd day. Then, so this is how majority of the or most of the events of the Buddha's life, they have happened on the odd day. Then, so they considered odd as auspicious. Moreover, पहली तीन छतरी, ठीक है, the first three always would be Buddha Dhamma Sangha. But then it is the growing cadre of the Buddhism which is depicted by the lower Chhatris. Then, moreover, Buddhism, as Buddha has said, that Buddhism is a religion which will grow, and I will not be the only teacher, but n number of the teachers will come up. Then, so as like Buddha saying, many such important Buddhist scholars have come up in the that after his death. So, including even if we have to say कि present time में कौन represent होता है छतरी से नीचे की तरफ, then Dalai Lama. ठीक है? So That's how it is a representation of the ever growth of the Buddhism. ठीक है? So, but एक चीज ध्यान में रखना, that Kshatris will always be increasing in the odd number. So first it was one Kshatri, ठीक है, Buddha in the early stupa. Later on 3 Kshatri, Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Then 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21. So in this way it will be increasing. In fact, if you go to the stupas of the Myanmar, you may find more than 100 Kshatris are there. Okay? So that is the tradition of the growth of the Buddhism. Likho, mention. The wooden Vedika of Maurya age, the wooden Vedika of Maurya age was replaced by stone Vedika. Was replaced by stone Vedika. Then, moreover, inside the premise of stupa, a sculpture of Buddha was installed. A sculpture of Buddha was installed, popularly known as Manushi Buddha. Popularly known as Manushi Buddha. Then mention. One additional Pradakshina Path was added. One additional Pradakshina Path was added at the top level of Medhi. At the top level of Medhi. Full stop. It indicated Mahayana path of Buddhism. It indicated Mahayana path of Buddhism. Mahayana path of Buddhism, while lower Pradakshina Path indicated Hinayan path of Buddhism. Lower Pradakshina Path indicated Hinayan path of Buddhism. Then mention. The number of Kshatris started to increase. The number of Kshatris started to increase in odd numbers. Which indicated the growth of Buddhism. And the auspiciousness associated with odd numbers. Okay? So some of the popular stupas of this time, examples we will write over here. Okay? So 3 popular stupas are there. Ek to the stupa which was created by Ashoka, there was further modification in that, as we mentioned ki Ashoka Vedika, which was made in the wooden pattern, so now it was replaced by the stone. So which is the biggest stupa of the Ashoka's time? Sanchi Stupa. So there is a modification in the Sanchi Stupa, but apart from it, purely created in the post-Maurya age was the Stupa of the Bharhut. Then abhi exist nahi karta hai. Remains of the Bharhut Stupa is kept inside the Bhopal Museum. And then so as the Amravati Stupa. So the old form is no more existing. Government of India ने वहां पे एक स्तूपा बनाया है, which is a newer one, smaller representation of the old stupa, but the remains of the old stupa are inside the museum in the Andhra. ठीक है? So example लिखो, Sanchi Stupa, then सांची एंड भारहुत दोनों मध्य प्रदेश में है. and Bharahut Stupa, and then you write Amravati Stupa. Amravati Stupa. Done? So we are done with the post Maurya topic, and as I mentioned to you, तो आज अभी यहीं छोड़ रहा हूँ, and then next week we'll be starting with the topic of the Guptas. ठीक है? चलो, thank you.